from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
All right, let's get to the latest with Aaron Rodgers.
Let's do it.
Some people have been kind of hitting us up on this stuff. The Broncos right now sit second in the NFL in cap space right now. And that could change. That could change with Juwan James. They could actually even increase that a little bit if they end up doing a little bit of a settlement with him.
I think that the Broncos are in prime position should Green Bay decide that they want to recoup assets on Aaron Rodgers. Because there's three options here, not two. You know, everybody talks about two options. He goes back to Green Bay or he leaves, right? The third option is they force him into retirement if he doesn't want to come back. So keep in mind that there are three options. So if they do choose the third option, which is to recoup assets for him and move on from him, I believe that the Denver Broncos are the most prime position team to be able to acquire him. And I'll say that he wants that. He doesn't have a no-trade clause, but he could also threaten to retire if he were to be positioned to a team he didn't want to go to. So there are options in play here. Denver's got all the cap space to make this work. They've got the assets to make this work. I don't want to get everybody's hopes up and say this is any kind of done deal like the people that were fake reporting this on the night of the draft. But it looks like something that is possible should Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers decide to move on. And Aaron Rodgers has made no secret to Green Bay that he's looking to move on. He doesn't want to be back. I saw today some reports about a giant new contract being offered to him. That hasn't happened. No new contract has been offered to Aaron Rodgers. Now, there has been offers, but no formal new offer has been made today or recently.
There's a lot of intrigue about Aaron Rodgers to the Broncos, and certainly we have a couple more weeks of what that ultimately looks like. But let me ask you something. I mean, at this point, considering everything that James Palmer kind of noted there about the salary cap implications and the fact the Broncos are in kind of prime position because they don't have to move on from a very expensive quarterback, does that not give them advantage on top of that Aaron Rodgers wants to be here that other teams don't have?
Well, I think it does. I think the Broncos are the most advantageous team in this pursuit. They have the cap space. They've got the assets to be able to move. They're not in any, they've got a ready-made defense. They've got all the things that Rodgers wants. They don't need to add anything in addition to Aaron Rodgers and the subtractions that they would make. They're in a position to make ones that won't really ding this team too much. So, yeah, they're in prime position to make a deal should Green Bay get to the point where they're ready to make a deal. I think Green Bay still thinks they can pull this thing off. I think they still think they can convince him to come back. I don't think that him coming back would be for longer than this year, and that's why I don't think that this contract report that's out there. I don't put much water or much faith in it because I don't think Green Bay wants to do that. I don't think they're at the point where they want to do that. They know they need to pay Devontae Adams, so I think they're probably going to take that money and put it there rather than Aaron Rodgers.
Cynthia Freeling with NFL Network put a trade proposal out there on NFL Network, and it was kind of along the lines of this, and it's closely mirrored to one that you've mentioned. The only thing absent in here is actually a defensive player. But let me throw this out at you, and our guy Andrew Mason is actually running a poll on this right now at Mace Denver. So it would be the Broncos getting Rodgers. It would be Green Bay receiving round 1 picks in 2022 and 2023. A round 2 pick in 2022, a conditional 4th in 2022, KJ Hamler, and Teddy Bridgewater. So no defensive player, but the Packers who have been needing some receiver help, potentially they'd be getting the bridge quarterback that they'd be looking for, and they'd get an extra 4th conditional, and they'd get a 2nd and then the 2 firsts. And that's something that you've been very consistent on throughout this whole process, that it would be 2 firsts in the day 2 plus Teddy Bridgewater. You've mentioned maybe a receiver and a defensive player. Well, in this case, she kind of replaced it with a conditional round 4 pick. And for Green Bay, maybe they'd rather have the conditional pick. They'd rather have, knowing that Aaron Rodgers is probably going to do pretty well here, maybe that would be more valuable to them than a young defensive player. Honestly, if that's the trade compensation, and I like KJ Hamler, I'm a big fan of what I think he can be one day, I sort of think that deal is pretty palatable for everybody.
I think that, okay, so let me backtrack on this because I want to make sure I get the whole scope of it. It's 2 1s, a 2, a 4.
Conditional 4, yes.
KJ and Teddy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you pulled the trigger on that right away.
Pretty quick. There's actually 16% say no.
Well, those are probably Packers fans.
That's a good point. A lot of people on this thing, though, because he's got like 83 responses. A lot of people on here are saying, I would do it, but I don't want to give up on Kamler yet.
You can find another receiver, man. We have too many as is, you know?
He was brought in to be the burner, the guy that takes the top off.
Right, but you've got Cortland and Tim Patrick and Jerry Jeudy, and those are going to be your starters anyway. You know, KJ's kind of the take the top off guy, but why can't Jeudy be that guy? He's got that kind of speed. And then, you look down roster, you got to get reps for Tyree Cleveland. Is Deshaun going to be on this roster? Probably not, but, whatever. And then they got the other kid who's pretty fast in this draft. His name's escaping me at the minute. Seth Williams, the chirper. That's what I call him.
Yeah, well, he's like a 4.6. No, he's a 4.4 actually. Now I think about it. He's a 4.4 guy. Contested catch.
Yeah, more contested catch guy. But still, and you got a lot of those guys. But you got, and you've got Noah Fant. Don't forget Albert Okwuegbunam's coming back off injury. You've got a bunch of guys you got to get balls to. You're going to have enough balls to go around and make it worth you. If not, dude, move on from him. That's fine. I love KJ Hamler.
Yeah.
I'd love to keep him and see what he could become. But if it's the difference in acquiring Aaron Rodgers, you pull the trigger on that.
Coming up next on Broncos Country tonight, the reality of the Broncos quarterback situation may be Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. The sooner Broncos fans accept that, the better. We'll get to it next.
Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. Here are Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
The conversation I wanted to have with you tonight, Ben, centers around where Broncos Country currently sits with their quarterback, because it feels like we haven't left the Deshaun Watson conversation this offseason. And by that, I mean the constantly hoping or reaching for the next quarterback. It was the same thing with Matthew Stafford, not to the same degree. But it's been that way here in Denver this entire offseason. It's been hoping for the next guy, when the reality might be back where you are currently. Like more than anything, all the people that are hoping the Broncos go get Aaron Rodgers because it magically fixes everything, the reality might be more back to what current reality is of you have Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, and those are your quarterbacks, and you're going to make that work somehow this season. Let's talk reality right now. And I keep throwing that word out, but let's talk reality right now. The reality for the Broncos is Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, their quarterbacks right now. Mm-hmm. How should Broncos fans be treating this situation? Should they be emotionally invested to the degree that you see them right now on Twitter in Aaron Rodgers, or should there be more of a let's understand that this is what we have? It'd be great to get Aaron Rodgers, but it may not happen.
I think that it should be more the latter. You should not be invested. That way you don't let you. But I'm one of those. Don't let myself down.
Because it's tearing apart the fabric of this team, this fan base.
And I don't want to see people set unrealistic expectations for George Payton and then be disappointed in him if it doesn't get done. There's a lot of moving parts around, and James Palmer put it great earlier when he said, there's a lot of moving parts and all this kind of stuff. Anytime you have players of this caliber, stuff can change. I would say that internally the Broncos are cautiously optimistic they can put something together here, but even then, that's still no guarantee you get something done. They're okay going into the season with Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. That's the plan, all right? That is the plan. If Aaron Rodgers comes available, then they're going to pursue that also. But the plan right now is Lock and Bridgewater, and Lock would be QB1 going into camp. Bridgewater would have to take that job from him, or Lock would have to give it away. I've seen all kinds of just absolute gross misinformation on this.
Right.
So we're going to correct that right now. And that is, again, the plan wasn't to draft a quarterback. It was always lock in a veteran. And if they had an opportunity to appreciably upgrade that, and that's a direct quote from that Broncos front office, an appreciable upgrade, i.e. a Matt Stafford, i.e. a Deshaun Watson before we started talking about all these massages dudes getting on the internet. Aaron Rodgers represents an appreciable upgrade. Those kinds of options are always going to be pursued. But as it is, the plan is to go into the next season with Drew Lock as QB1 and Teddy Bridgewater as the hedge/backup plan. If Drew Lock takes that jump, cool. So be it. Awesome. We're in great shape. Rolling forward with that. If he doesn't take that jump, you put Teddy Bridgewater in there as a bridge, and you're looking at a loaded quarterback class next year. Even though it's not top-heavy, there's like a dozen guys in it.
I'm just seeing so many people out there continuing to sort of shred each other over this. And like we said, it started in the offseason with this conversation about Deshaun Watson. Then it carried into the draft, and it's continuing with they should have taken Justin Fields. And now it's kind of happening with the Aaron Rodgers thing. And look, this isn't me trying to dump a bucket of cold water on everybody that wants Aaron Rodgers. Look, everybody wants Aaron Rodgers. Like I said this on a radio hit the other day. It's one of the few things that's united Broncos country is the want for Aaron Rodgers to bring an MVP, a 3-time MVP into town. But it's got to be viewed through at least one kind of prism here that it's kind of a long shot.
I mean, kind of. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I like Drew Lock just fine. Somehow I've become labeled as the biggest Drew Lock stan in town, which is weird because that's not true. But, like, I like Drew Lock just fine. And I want to see what he can do with a year of continuity. That said, we all want Aaron Rodgers. Everybody wants Aaron Rodgers.
But you shouldn't be disappointed.
But you don't set yourself up to expect Aaron Rodgers. The plan is Lock and Bridgewater. And if Rodgers comes available, they'll look into that. And that's the way to look at this thing. Let's dial it back. We had hot take blowtorch radio guy out there talking about deals almost done and all this nonsense, on draft night. Wasn't anywhere close to done. In fact, not close to done. There had been no talks at that point. So the idea that it was close to done was only being put out by someone who actually is named Dunn, but whatever.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like we've jumped the shark on expectations. We've gotten to a point where you can no longer have civil conversations about these things, and that's been going on all off season. But now that we're through the draft, okay, this is only timed and prescient right now. Now that we're through the draft, and really the only option that could potentially come available is Aaron Rodgers, I'd like to see Broncos country settle down a little bit, go into this with the expectations of what can Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater do to help this team get wins, because that still remains the most important thing. If Vic Fangio wants to keep his job, he's got to find a way to get wins. Okay? Now, Aaron Rodgers represents a massive upgrade there at the position. If that happens, it's great. But we shouldn't be killing each other out there, shredding each other out there, understanding that that's a bit of a long shot. The reality settles back to it's more likely that it's going to be Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. We get excited. It'd be cool if Rodgers becomes available. It's just not available right now, just like I always felt about the Deshaun Watson thing months ago. Like, as we were going through this, you and I both sat in here watching people kind of go nuts about it and saying, listen, like, this would be incredible, but Houston has to agree to move on from him. And then then the next step is, what's the market like? How much is it going to cost to be even just in the conversation of that market? The one thing that makes it different here with Rodgers is that the Broncos might be the best option overall, and that's why there's a little bit of excitement. But again, we're still to the point of the team that holds on to him has to decide that that's the direction they want to go. And there is a little bit of a window here, whether it happens or not. And I feel as though we need to settle down a bit.
The Broncos wouldn't have gotten Deshaun Watson anyway. And that's why I was trying to be as cautious as I could about that one, because that wasn't going to happen.
Coming up next on Broncos Country Tonight, what's the bar that Drew Lock needs to clear in order for the fan base to fully support him? We'll get to that next.
Welcome back to Broncos Country Tonight. Here are Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
The question is, what's the bar for Drew Lock to clear as it relates to people buying into him? All right, so this is it's not just clearing a minimum bars that people are like, they're all right. I could see rolling with Lock for another year. I mean, he's going to have to really kind of win some people over this year. He's going to win the Broncos over. Let's be honest.
Like, that's exactly it. He has to win them over. I mean, he has to win them over through competition and then continue to carry that momentum forward in the season. What I'm asking isn't, does he need to win the Broncos over? That's unknown. What I'm asking is, what will it take? What bar does he have to clear to win the haters over, win the fans over?
Yep.
What bar does he have to clear for where all these people who were trashing him all year are suddenly like, well, actually the kid can play?
All right, this one. If we're relevant in December, I'm happy. Another one, I'll take above 500 for Drew, but the head coach needs to be in the playoffs. There are actually 2 bars. Okay. I mean, I kind of see that. Above 500 for Drew. And I guess that assumes that maybe Drew isn't the quarterback for the entire year, maybe. I mean, we do expect, the NFL has been a league that goes to your backup quarterback. You do need to have good quarterback depth now in this NFL.
Well, and Drew's been injured in 2 straight years.
That's exactly right.
You're going to have to fix that.
Yeah, that's another part. Health. Like he has to clear a certain mark of health.
You're going to have to play a whole season, play it healthy, and play at certain benchmarks, not turn the football over.
That's a big one for me.
Number of your passes. Those kinds of, there are bars here. I'm just asking because everybody's going to be a little different. I'm asking what that number is. I'm asking what that bar to clear is.
The health one's big for me.
Okay.
Because I certainly am not going to be pounding the table for Drew Lock to get more opportunities next year if he can't even play a whole season.
Right.
Right? That we have to measure this at some point against something very tangible, whether that is a touchdown to interception ratio, whether that is wins. And again, quarterback wins are always kind of a fuzzy stat anyways. But health, something that I guess you could argue because of what the NFL is not completely up to him, but it is up to him in decisions he made. The injury he took in the Steelers game was avoidable. That was an avoidable moment.
It was a freak accident, but it was still avoidable. There were ways he should have, things he should have done there. Yeah,
so
I agree with you.
That's what I'm saying. And he took an injury in a preseason game. Again, unnecessary.
It happens, though. In preseason games, it happens because you're the backup. At that point in time, you're the backup quarterback behind a backup offensive line at that point.
Definitely understand.
But
he's got to find a way to protect himself. The league has never been more pro quarterback than it is now.
Yeah.
And helpful to the quarterbacks in protecting them.
Very true.
And because of that, take advantage of it.
I agree.
The guys that are the best of all time, include Tom Brady in that.
The BOAT.
Yeah.
Best of all time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yes. Let's see here. Lock can't be the reason they lose, and that's okay for me. So clearing the bar there for Chris, he says, Lock can't be the reason they lose, and he has been the reason they've lost games.
That's true.
So
and
that's
he is correct, and that's really where I'm at with that. He has to be the reason that he has to be a reason they're winning, not a reason they're losing.
At some point, you have to know that there isn't another option, at least not right now. You can explore those options in the offseason, but at some point, you're going to have to make a decision. We had this conversation back in, I would say, March maybe February, that at what point are the Broncos going to have to just go in on a plan? They had their fingers in and figuring out, trying to see which quarterbacks could be potentially available. They were out there testing the waters. If Deshaun Watson did become available, they would go after him. They did their work. They traveled the country looking at the rookie quarterback prospects. And in the end, they've come back to Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe Aaron Rodgers becomes available. Maybe he doesn't. But at what point are you going to accept that that's the reality of what the Broncos quarterback position is and support it? We had real conversations about Sam Darnold and about whether or not he represents an appreciable upgrade. And honestly, if the Broncos had acquired Sam Darnold, we would still be talking about that. We'd still be saying, I don't know, Sam Darnold, man, he was drafted really high in the, maybe he could be something still. But it would be tough to know without that camp competition. And that would have taken you out of going a quarterback at 9.
They want to see if Drew Lock can grow to the player that's why you have these coaches, right? That's why you brought these guys in. You brought in Mike Shula and Pat Shurmur to develop Drew Lock. That's why you brought them here. So you want to see if they can do it. And, if Trey Lance had been there, that probably would have been the pick. I'm going to tell you, if Trey Lance had been the pick, he probably still wouldn't be the starter this year. I'm not sure he would have played.
Oh, I know. I was waiting for the amount of people, and because it didn't happen, you're seeing them out themselves here. I was waiting for the amount of people that actually moved the Broncos up these power rankings in the offseason or the win expectation if they draft Justin Fields.
Right.
It's like Justin Fields might not play this year. You're really going to move them up power rankings because their third-string quarterback
right
is drafted at 9.
It represents some kind of optimism, and that's what happens. That's what it is for people. Honestly, it boils down to that. They want to feel hope. They want to feel optimistic about this team and their prospects, and they don't get that for whatever reason from Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock. But the idea of some guy who has never played it down in the NFL gives them that optimism, and so that's where all this stuff comes from.
More texts, man. You guys have been fantastic. This year, my expectation for Locke is winning 10-plus games and making the playoffs. Twice as many wins as last year. Listen, with better health, they're better in their turnover margin. Mm-hmm. They're going to have a shot at 10 wins. I don't care who starts at quarterback. They're going to have a shot at 10 wins.
I agree.
And you listen to Eric Crocker, who was on with us last week. Mm-hmm. It's a really fun interview. BroncosCountryTonight.com. Listen to Eric Crocker last week, and Eric, he kind of laid it out. Said defense still matters. Like we're in a league right now where everybody thinks about fantasy football and the quarterbacks and the receivers, but defense still matters. He pointed to the Tampa Bay game. That defense is the reason they walked away with a championship. Yeah, they have Tom Brady and they did what they needed to do on offense, but that defense stymied Patrick Mahomes. He pointed to the 49ers hanging in there with the Chiefs the year before. Said the 49ers aren't hanging in there if that defense isn't elite. Mm-hmm. They're going to get boat raced. And Jimmy Garoppolo is not the guy that you want to be in a shootout with.
Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight. Tune in to Broncos TV every weeknight at 6:30, right here on KTVD Channel 20.